The title of this book is The Spiritual Man. The author is our beloved brother, Watchman Nee. We are in great part 4 of this book, great part 4, chapter 2 of this great part 4, chapter 2, The Spiritual Man. Chapter 2, The Spiritual Man. Chapter 2, subpart 4. Chapter 2, subpart 4. The strengthening of the Holy Spirit. In order for man's enormous organ to gain dominion over the soul and the body, and thus serve as channel for the life of the spirit to be transmitted to others, there must be his strengthening. Paul prayed for believer that according to the riches of his glory, he may grant you to be strengthened with might through his spirit in the inner man. In Ephesians chapter 3 verse 16. He so prays because he considered it infinitely important. He asks God to strengthen by his spirit their inner man, which is the new man in them after they have trusted in the Lord. Therefore, the prayer is that the believer's spirit may be strengthened by God's spirit. From this, we may deduce that the spirit of some saints are weak, while those of others are strong. Whether they are potent or impotent depend upon whether or not they have received his strengthening. Since those at Ephesus had been sealed already with the Holy Spirit in Ephesians chapter 1 verse 13-14, the apostles' prayer for them must be concerned with a gift other than his indwelling. His prayer indicates they must have not only the Holy Spirit indwelling them, but also have his special power inundating their spirit so as to render their inner man strong. It is possible for us to possess a weak spirit, although having God indwelling us. To be filled with might, the inner man, is the urgent need for Christians. However, unless they appreciate how feeble there is there, they will not ask for the invigoration of the Holy Spirit. Often the children of God cannot rise up to answer the Lord's call to service simply because, third, their physical condition is good, their feelings are low, cold, and reluctant, or even when their emotions are quite high, passionate, and willing, they find themselves unable to serve the Lord because now the body reacts lazily. Such phenomena betray the weakness of the spirit in its dominion over feeling and the physical body. The disciple found themselves in precisely that situation in the Garden of Gethsemane. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. In Matthew chapter 26 verse 41. Willingness by yourself is not sufficient. The spirit also must be strong. If it is sturdy, it can overcome the infirmity of the flesh. Why do believers sometimes find themselves bragging and failing while laboring for souls? Lack of power in their spirit is the explanation. The same whole truth in the case of environment. How easily we are affected by the confusion of the outside world. Where our spirit hardy, we will be able to meet the most disturbing situation with peace and rest. Prayer is the acid test of the inner man's strength. A strong spirit is capable of praying much and praying with all perseverance until the answer comes. A weak one, grow weary and faint-hearted in the maintenance of praying. A vigorous spirit can move forward in the midst of adverse environment or feeling, but a frail one is impotent to stand against opposition. Great is the need of power in the spirit for spiritual warfare with Satan. Only those who have, only those who have, who have might in the inner man understand how to exercise their spiritual strength in resisting and attacking the enemy. Otherwise, the battle will be make believe fought in the imagination of the mind or the excitement of the emotion, and perhaps fought with the weapon of flesh and blood. In order for the inner man to be strengthened with power through the Holy Spirit, the children of God must discharge their responsibility. They need to yield specially to the Lord, forsake every doubtful aspect of their life, be willing to obey fully God's will, and believe through prayer that He will flood their spirit with His power. Without delay, God will answer the expectation of their heart once all obstacles on their path are removed. Believers do not need to wait for the Holy Spirit filling because He has descended already. What they need only wait for is for themselves to fulfill the condition for His filling, which is they must let the cross perform a deeper incision upon them. Should they be faithful in believing and obeying, then within a very short time, the power of the Holy Spirit will saturate their spirit and strengthen their inner man for living and for laboring. Some may receive His filling immediately upon once surrendering themselves to the Lord, for they already have met the condition for such filling. This inversion of God's power in us, this unfilling of His Spirit, happen in the human spirit. It is the inner and not the outer man which is activated by His power and then becomes strong. This is most important to recognize, for it will help us to exercise simple faith in our desire for the filling of the Holy Spirit in Galatians chapter 3 verse 14. Rather than to anticipate some bodily sensation such as a shaking, a jerking, or a hurling to the ground. Yet Christians need to be watchful lest they use faith as an excuse for not experiencing the empowering of the Holy Spirit. The condition for filling must be accomplished, and the attitude of believer must be firm. God will fulfill His promises. By reading what the apostle affirmed in the succeeding verses in Ephesians chapter 3 about apprehending, knowing, and feeling, we are certain this strengthening with mind in the inner man render it highly sensitive. Like the body, the spirit has its function and consciousness. Prior to the mighty inflow of the Holy Spirit's power into their spirit, believers scarcely can detect its intuitive power, but afterward, its intuitive force becomes most distinctive and hence readily discovered. As the inner man is exercised, its intuitive power is increased. Believers are able to sense its slightest movement. The effect of having the Spirit filled with God's power is to afford its full sway over the soul and the body. Every thought, desire, sensation, and intent is now governed by the Spirit. The soul can no longer act independently. It becomes instead a spirit steward. Furthermore, through the believer's spirit, the Holy Spirit is able to impart God's life to thirsty and dying men. However, this feeling of the Holy Spirit differs from the baptism with the Holy Spirit because the latter is for the purpose for service, while the former solves the problem of life. In God, naturally, it will affect service too. Walking according to the Spirit. Walking according to the Spirit. Transformation from soulish to spiritual does not guarantee that believer never again will walk according to the flesh. On the contrary, an ever-present danger exists of falling back into it. Satan is constantly alert to seize every opportunity to cause them to plunge from their lofty position to a life below bad. It is therefore highly necessary for God's children to be watchful at all times and to follow the Spirit so that they may remain spiritual. In order that the just requirement of the Lord might be fulfilled in us who walk not according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit. Now, those who live according to the Spirit set their mind on the things of the Spirit. To set the mind on the Spirit is life and peace. And got Romans chapter 8 verse 4 to 6. To follow the Spirit is to walk contrary to the flesh. Not following the Spirit is walking by the flesh. Many Christians oscillate between these two, now following the one, now following the others. They ought to walk according to the inner man alone, which is to walk according to the Spirit intuition, and not for a moment according to the soul or body. In thus following the Spirit, they invariably shall set their mind on the things of the Spirit, and the result shall be life and peace. To live by the Spirit means to walk according to intuition. It is to live all one's life, service, and action in the Spirit, ever being governed and employed by it. This preserves the saint in life and peace. Since he cannot remain in a spiritual state unless he walk according to the Spirit, then at the very least, the saint must understand its various functions and law if he is to walk well. To live after the Spirit is the Christian's daily task. He ought to perceive that we can live neither by the noblest of feeling nor by the loftiest of thought. We must walk according to the guidance accorded us through our intuition. The Holy Spirit expresses his feeling, thought. The Holy Spirit expresses his feeling through our spirit's delicate sense. He does not operate directly on our mind, suddenly inducing us to think of something. All his work are done in our enormous depth. If we desire to know his mind, we should conduct ourselves in accordance with the intuition of our spirit. At times, however, we may sense something there without comprehending what it means, what it demands, or what it is communicating. Whenever this happens, we must commit ourselves to prayer, asking that our mind may be given understanding. Once we apprehend the meaning of what we have sensed intuitively, we thereafter should behave accordingly.